Good evening. We'd like to welcome you to our late edition of Scars to Stars. We're coming to you from Lusaka, and it's our first Scars to Stars. We are streaming live. Tonight, we're privileged to move from our space, normally where we would talk about people in academia, in banking, in agribusiness. But today, we're talking about a unique space, a space that is emerging, but the person we're interviewing today and we're profiling today has been somebody that has been in this space long before it became popular. And we want to talk about filmmaking and film directing. Zambia has a gem that we have not even thought about, but this gem has been representing and winning awards on behalf of Zambia for some time now. And we're talking none other than Cathrine Musola Kaseketi. Cathrine, we want to thank you for joining us today, and thank you for honoring us to share your experience with us in this month that we celebrate women in leadership. Welcome to Scars to Stars.
Thank you very much, sir. I'm very, very honored and humbled to be able to be given this opportunity to join other women that are being celebrated. I'm very humbled. Thank you very much, sir.
We do celebrate your awards. You have represented Zambia, even when film wasn't popular, when film was something that a lot of people felt it is when you can become a doctor, a lawyer, an architect, then you go into it. And then they called it probably theater arts, or they called it something like that. But you made it a profession, and you have won awards for this nation. I'll read a bit about you. And when we talk about Musola Cathrine Kaseketi, we're talking about you were born in Solwezi, from a small town called Solwezi, northwestern province of Zambia. You're a filmmaker, you're a human rights advocate. You are the first film director who is also the first feature film international award winner in Zambia. So you've won award on behalf, you are the recipient of the first Ability Global Award. So they looked through the world, and you were the first to win that. Musola is determined, you are focused, hardworking, and passionate with your skills. You also are self-motivated, artist, human rights advocate, biased. Even with disability rights, you advocate with leadership skills. You are highly recognized and celebrated as an international award-winning Zambian African filmmaker. So I don't know if that is coming from you. But this is your life, Cathrine, and we want to talk to you about it. Who is Cathrine? I know that is your bio, that is part of your profile. Just a bit about it. Your CV is so rich, it will take us an hour to probably go through that. Tell us about Cathrine before we go too far into the details of this.
Wow, it's always difficult when you ask the question, who's Musola, who's Cathrine?
Yeah.
To me, that's the most difficult part, to talk about who is Musola. But I think what I can just say is Musola Cathrine Kaseketi is just a simple woman. Now, I'm no longer a young woman, old woman, is very, very passionate about issues that relate to human life because of her experience. And also passionate about changing lives. I'm an agent of change, and especially focusing mostly on the vulnerable and those that have passion, aspirant to do something that they can. And if I'm able to share that little percentage of whatever somebody's aspirant to do, I'm very, very keen and interested to work with such people. So probably that's what I can say. It's just a simple woman, Zambian, very passionate about working with people, especially the underprivileged.
It's really so interesting to hear you be so humble. And sometimes we hear that the greatest leaders are the most humble and simple of them all. You talk about Gandhi, you talk about Mandela, you talk about Mother Teresa, you talk about very simple people. And we see why, probably even from the beginning, that you are one of those leaders that if we did not come looking, probably you wouldn't even let anybody know where you are. And the whole world has recognized you in this month. Tell us about the people that has talked to you this month alone. You seem to be so sought out. Close to every day, you're on an international platform talking to a different audience. Tell us a few of those this month that have come to talk to you on your achievements and speaking on behalf of women and women in leadership.
Thank you so very much. It's very, very humbling, actually, when you are seated at the backyard and then people just fish you out, just like you fished me out, and they want to talk to you. You know, this is Women Month, International Women's Month, and I've had a number of people, film festivals, United Nations, where I have been speaking on issues that relate to women, and especially my experience and motivating and mentoring people. So just to mention a few, the Fly Black Women Film Festival in London, starting from the 6th until this Saturday, I've been the guest. And very interestingly is when they came to me, they approached me last month and they said, we just want the film so with. And I said, oh, that film is old. They said, no, 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 no. We don't want any other film. We're talking about filmmakers. We're talking about leaders. We're talking about women. And that's the film that we want. I was very hesitant when they told me they wanted to feature the film as a guest film. But what was interesting is throughout the discussions, because every day, starting from 18 hours up to 21 hours, I would be with them and then screen the film and then discussions, and different people are coming on board. What was interesting is the issues that have been coming out through that discussion. The other film festival, the other where there was a screening is Pioneers in Minsket. This is last year I was at the Women Delivers, one of the speakers, and I met young ladies that have made a film, Pioneers in Skate, and this is a film that is talking about women in power, women in decision making around the world, but it's from California. And they asked me to be the guest speaker. We were three of us, and I was the main speaker. It happened on the 18th. Yeah, on the 18th. That was also very, very interesting because we talked about issues of women. And it's at the UN, Commission on Status of Women. I've been there in person at the Commission on Status of Women, but now they said, we need you to come and be one of the guest speakers on the side events. Then also the Women Film Festival that is run by some Americans, Nigerian American actually, which is happening towards the end of this month. They have also asked me to take a workshop on human rights this month. It will be on 30th up to the 3rd. They're giving me a date when I'm going to talk about using film as a tool for social change. So basically, I'm just mentioning a few. All these, that is outside the country. And then locally, there are some filmmakers that have asked me. I'll be speaking on the 3rd. And then tomorrow I'll be officiating a certain program. That's international. But locally, there's some filmmakers that have asked me to talk to the actors and actresses who will be having a program on the 3rd of April. Just to mention a few. Basically, most of them, they're coming to me to talk about using film as a tool for human rights advocacy, using film as a tool for change, using film as a tool, as a leader. How do you impact change? How do you impact gender equity using film? So those are the issues that have been happening this month. It has been really interesting. I've learned a lot through these platforms.
It is really interesting to hear because, as you know, CSW, which you just talked about, CSW in New York, is the biggest, next to the General Assembly, is the biggest convergence of the world and is the biggest convergence of women every year all over the world. The second week of March is always when women come together and they pull the best of women, the women that are making the most strides and bringing best practices to talk. So it's such an honor to know that you were invited and you were invited to address a side event. That for a woman is such an honor. And we thank you for representing us as Zambia in that platform. Such an international platform is high recognition of your value and your work. So we celebrate you with the rest of the world. Thank you for flying the flag of Zambia. Tell us, ma'am, since we're talking about that, what has been your response to those questions? How can we use film to bring about change and attain equality, particularly in this COVID world? When they ask you such questions, what answers, some of the answers you gave to them, if you can share with us on this local platform to enjoy the richness of your mind and the kind of discourse going on the global space?
Thank you for asking that question. On the 29th, I'll be on the panelist with Columbia University because that's where I did human rights advocacy. And exactly the question that you've asked, that's what I'll be answering to.
Oh,
So I'm
fantastic.
just wondering.
Dress rehearsal.
Yes,
So
I'm
please
saying,
go ahead.
how did you have some leakage? Because that's the question I'm supposed to be
I saw the
discussing.
script. I saw the script. Please go ahead.
Oh, you saw the script. This is serious. How? I have to find out with my director what happened.
It's privileged information.
Yes, thank you very much. So basically, as I've said, this is what I'll be discussing. How can we been using film? Have I been using film as a tool during this time of COVID? The moment COVID started last year, we came to realize that there are certain voices that couldn't get information. I'm coming to those voices. And to
Yeah.
begin with, I was forced to use film because when I was growing up, I was using stage. I would go on quite a good morning to do some poems. I thank Claristo Chitamfia before I went to school. I think he just thought this girl just wants to say things. And I would go on quite a good morning and say poems on different issues. International Women's Day, NGOCC would call me and I would write poems. When there's the gender-based violence, 16 days of activism, I'll do poems. Then when I came back from school, I realized that when I use film, then I'll meet, at least I'm going to have a wide range of people that I can meet within a short time. And then one critical part that I also discovered is how film provokes debate, how film provokes people to speak. When people are enclosed, they cannot communicate, they are scared. But the moment they view or they watch something, they are provoked and their voices are heard and they start speaking. And also from my past experience, there are certain issues that I've done documentary short films and you go in the community. I'll give an example of a rural setting where, the traditional leaders and the subjects cannot speak at the same level. But when we screen the film and we bring out an issue on child abuse, child marriage, early marriage, and all those issues, you find that even children start arguing with the elders, and we sit back and just listen, and there's that debate and discussion. So this is what made me realize when COVID came in, how can we also use this tool? And from my experience, I targeted mostly on persons with disabilities because on 2011, we started also focusing, being a little bit biased on issues of disability because we realized that there were certain issues that were left out, certain groups, especially women with disabilities and girls. So how have I used this tool? Basically, what I've seen is we've gone in rural areas. And what made me go in rural areas, especially in Southern Province, was just right in Livingstone, people who are deaf. There were a lot of information that was being screened on adverts on TV, and we forgot those people. One young lady testified that one time she went to the market, and when she went to the market, they were just seeing people wearing masks, and they don't know why people are wearing masks, and they thought maybe people are coughing or there's something that has come up. But no one communicated to tell them that this is what's happening. And when she went to the market, she was chased. And that's when later she realized that because she didn't have a mask and there was COVID. So how have we used this tool to communicate, to ensure that everyone receives the information, everyone is carried on board, everyone is protected, everyone starts to use all the to do what Ministry of Health has told us, the measures, take up measures. So basically we do documentaries, we go to sensitize in communities and even in different places, and we also donate masks and COVID, different items like sanitizers, we make masks for those who cannot afford. We deal very much with inclusion. So when we are dealing with people with disabilities, not just people with disability, anyone else who's among those people. So using film, we have gone to different areas and also have helped certain media to realize that we're supposed to be also making adverts. Or when we are talking about, when we are doing sensitization, we have to remember people with disabilities, starting from visual, audio, and any other kind of communication. So that's how we've used, starting from last year, we've got documentaries. In fact, the World CBR, Community-Based Rehabilitation World Congress, just yesterday we had a Zoom meeting and the president was asking for the documentaries that we've done in the area of COVID so that they can share on different platforms as to use Zambia as good practice and what we are doing to use the tool to sensitize people on the issues of COVID.
It is, I believe it's so appropriate that we are talking to you because from what you've just told us, what you are telling us is this: Zambia has been identified as a leader in bringing about transformation through film. And Zambia is recognized because some of the works you are doing, because you're one of the foremost, you are the foremost female director, first female director of film. You are the first award-winning film director from Zambia. And you are doing all these things out of your passion. And it is such an honor to know that the whole world is looking to you for best practice and saying, how are you doing it in Zambia? Let us flag that Zambia is doing something great. One of the things that I'm sure people watching do not know about you is that you're a woman with disability, and you do not talk like one with disability. Rather, you talk as a pioneer and an advocate for human rights and for those that are less privileged, disabled, and having disability. How did you come about your disability? Sad as it is, you have never rested on that as a reason not to achieve. Please tell us about that.
Thank you so very much. And I like it when you say you're not talking about disability. Actually, to begin with, before I answer your question, when I went to film school, I told myself I'm not going to make movies on disability because I've got a disability. Because I remember when I returned, when somebody with a disability went to National Arts Council, Ministry of Community Development, or Ministry of Information, as long as somebody had a disability, they would send them to me to help them. Then I said, look, I am a person with a disability in the film industry, but I can deal with everyone. Doesn't mean because I've got a disability, then I should deal with persons with disability. You can also address those issues. So that's very interesting for me. How did I acquire my disability? I wasn't born with a disability. According to mom, I got my disability at the age of 1 and 6 months, somewhere there, through an injection. I was sick, and then I was put on 5 injections. On the 3rd injection, the nurse, it was a student nurse in Solwezi, who injected me on the nape. And in 2018, it was confirmed by a doctor at Coptic Hospital when I was trying to get some information. And he showed me even on computer how that happens. The 5, I think, I don't know, not 5, sorry, I can't remember how many causes of injection that causes disability. So that's how it happened. And when it happened, I went through, my mom and my dad, because I couldn't walk. Then they took me to the hospital. My late cousin, Dr. Gavin Siluamba, with Mrs. Simmons, she's still living in Kitwe. They took me through an operation, and I could walk. I was limping a bit. I was doing stuff, but there came a time when my parents separated, and I lived with my stepmother, who I really thank and I appreciate. Because from the word go, my family didn't treat me like a person with a disability. I didn't even know I had a disability. Even when I lived with my stepmother, who I appreciate and I love very much. She passed on last year, may I so rest in peace. She thought she was mistreating me. She was mistreating me, that she thought, but she was teaching me to be who I am today. And that's why I love that woman. And that's what people don't understand. 2 years back, I asked Mom, I said, Mom, look at the life that I went through with my stepmother. Why, whenever I came to you, you wouldn't encourage me? Said, you know what? That woman was your mother, just like I am. So there was no way I was going to say, no, she's treating me like this, do this, do this. Because I was thinking, what am I doing? So the only thing that used to comfort me when I went through that life, if you're not a Christian, you take it negatively. But me, because God helped me out, the only thing that I used to do is, 1, turn to poetry. It helped me to write a lot.
And cope.
And cry. I would cry and I would sing songs that if I can, if I was I can have a way I can go and kill myself and die, but I never did. And then turn to God and pray. Wow. So most of the time, because of my mother, I would just pray and cry and went on. But sometimes it also depends where you're coming from, because when I came out of that world, I was very, very depressed and inside, but it taught me to fight on my own. That through my life, even my family, I'm one person that I do things that even some of my sisters, especially my young sister, she tells me that the things you do, I can't do them, because she grew up with my mom. Now, if I'd grown up with my mother, especially with my disability, I would have been a sports child. I would have been like, everything is being done for me. But I thank my stepmother, even when I finished school, when I went, had an opportunity to go out, she was the first person I bought something just to ask God to help me to forgive and forget. And I start loving her because I started to understand. Okay, coming back to what inspired me with my disability, because what I went through, I never used to use it to work, to use a crutch. But when I went to Kawe, and I was used to go to Just Mine from Kawe Trace, I think it's about 14 kilometers if you go around, because you couldn't pass through the mine area. I used to walk up and down. I started holding my left leg. I became weak. I won't go into details. So it was a very challenging life. It was very, very challenging. But because my mother had put a foundation of the Lord Jesus Christ, and then my father used to drink, and when he stopped drinking, he became an evangelist. It was also, whenever I talked to him, all he could do, even when whatever my stepmother was doing, he would just read the Bible and just encourage me and tell me about how God loved me. So I was surrounded by those people. And then I realized the only thing I needed to do is to focus on God and love this wonderful woman who even some people didn't understand, even the neighbors. Because just to give one example, which I couldn't understand. One time she told me that if you call me mom, you're a goat. I went to mom, I said, Mom, she told me that. And mom laughed and said, come on, she's your mother. She loves you. She just wants you to make her. Are you going to turn in a goat? Which mother would do such a thing? Only a Christian mother. And that's what I said to my mother. So that is, I came to realize my disability became my motivation. How did I know I had a disability? Because through my primary and my junior secondary school, I didn't know I had a disability because even my stepmother didn't treat me like a child with a disability. That was brilliant. And I thank her for that. Because she just looked at me and said, this is a child, this is a girl, I'll treat her just like any other person. And that is the greatest thing she did for me, for my life. So when I went to Kasama Girls, there was this, my mom told the matron that this girl, don't put her on sick pay, because she can do everything that she wants. She can go to the dining, she can fetch water, put her head without, even with a crutch and everything. So there were girls who are put on sick pay, where when every girl is sick, that's where they're going to be. But then the first week I was hoping they would get healed and come back. And I was asking myself, why are all these 4 or 5 girls sick at the same time with disabilities? Then later I realized they were sick. They were kept as sick pay because they had disabilities. And I started trying to find out, who am I as a girl, as a person, as a woman with a disability? Then the next thing that happened, I started drama when I was very, very young. At church, I used to do, I remember the first play I did at church was The Good Samaritan, and I acted as a Good Samaritan at Sunday school. And when I was doing drama, primary school, it was okay. But when I went to Kasama Girls, my patron couldn't allow me to be in the forefront unless in the background I'm hidden. Then I started discovering these things. I was being hidden because of my disability, and I started learning a lot about disability. So I taught myself. First time I did a poem in front of Kenneth Kaunda, and I saw him shedding tears. And I told myself, how can I make the president cry? Because I wrote a poem about Namibia should soon be free. And when he came to Northern Province, they wanted some people to entertain. And the girl said that girl did a poem during inter-houses. And I did. And I saw the president shedding tears with his white handkerchief. I said, if the president can cry, then I can change the world. That's when I started using my challenges, my disability, any obstacle as my motivation to achieving set objectives, to changing lives. So that's how I started using film, and then using my disability. And any challenge that comes my way, it becomes my motivation. And that's what I've learned in life. My motivation is any challenge that comes my way.
I really am so in honor and in awe of the woman you are. Most other people use it as an excuse to bury themselves, make themselves victims, and to give excuses why they shouldn't try. But you are telling us that what would put everybody down. You see, you help us to totally understand that you will never have tea without hot water. The tea bag in the hot water. You'll never have oil without it being crushed. And it's such a joy to hear you thank your stepmother, because if she, something I discovered as a pastor, I discovered that everybody got used. Great person got used. God took away from their domicile where their father and mother would pamper and pet them, Your story reminds me of Joseph. He had to be taken away from his father's house and stripped of the coat of many colors. And you say that your life, they didn't even give you any coat of, they didn't treat you like someone with disability, and they treated you, and that has been your stepping stone. Jacob named them. Jesus left heaven to come here and was nailed on the cross, and today has a great name. No wonder you are winning awards on behalf of Zambia. We really thank you for having gone through that and for the positive mindset you have. It is so interesting to see that with the challenges you face, you did not put your head down, but you expressed yourself in poem, in poetry, and in film at an early age. Tell me about this, man. What is the state of film and cinematography and all that in Zambia today? In your opinion, when you see the commercialization and yet you know the power of film and the power of the screen, how do you feel when you see the big commercialization? Yes, we have to make money, but you see the power that is not being used or maybe is used for other things. What do you feel about that when you see that?
First and foremost, to start with, I'll go where when I came back from school. I didn't even know I was the first female director, and there was no film industry in Zambia. I came back, I had 3 job offers in South Africa. Kahiso Television had offered me a very big job because when I graduated with a lot of awards. I was the top students and so on and so forth. ETV offered me for a position and Studio Zoo under Mount Choice. And then Mr. Lawrence Thompson called me to come and work on Cabanana. He didn't call me as a director, but I had specialized as a director. He called me as a production manager. But because I had promised myself that looking at what I left back home, I'm going back home to be part of the development of the Zambian film industry. I had to turn down the great offer jobs that I was. Studio Zoo even gave me a flat in the Santon City. They gave me, it was a good package. I came back home because I promised myself I want to be part of the Zambian film industry, where I was going to be a producer for Studio Zoo. I was going to do assistant TV compliance for ETV, and there was assistant editor for Kahiso Television, but I came here to be a production manager, the lowest offer. And what I was given, the package, but I said, I'm going back home, as I promised. I came back home. And when I came back home, when I took up the job, Mr. Thompson, at first I couldn't because I couldn't just work on the environment. I didn't know how to do it because where I was, I worked on it. I worked on, as a student, I worked on Isidingo, Generation M Live, and then I also worked as a trainee assistant the director on Strix, and then I also worked as a production secretary on Takalani Sesame Street. So, but when I came back, we didn't have anything, and I commend Mr. Thompson because he started from the scratch. It was very difficult, and I couldn't work there. But then later, when I saw the way people were writing, criticizing the soap in media, I decided to take it up in May. And when I took up the job, when I went on set, I went there to production manager as I was told. But Mr. Thompson said, take up directing. And that's how I took up directing. And when I was doing and one thing I have to mention is having being a person with a disability, a director with a disability, a female woman with a disability, a Black female with a disability, and director. Before people get to know, it's very challenging because you have to fight to express yourself or to convince people for more than 3-4 times for them to be comfortable with you. Because even at film school, sometimes when I'm coming with a camera, people would run. I think I'll drop a camera and I would just smile. I said, don't worry, I'm good. Where sometimes if somebody finds me on top of the tree with a camera, I said, you're going too fast. I said, don't worry. God has already taken care of everything. Anyway, going back to my story, when I took up Cabanana as a director, the first time on set, in fact, may his soul rest in peace, he became my very good friend, Mr. Cabanana, and the people that were there, the Jasons and the Matongo, I think, because that's the team that was shooting. When they looked at me, they said, "Yeah, my God, what has Mr. Thompson done? How can he bring short, small, tiny, and with a disability to direct?" Because I remember the words that Mr. Chanda Cabanana said, but later we became very good friends. He said we were just helpless. We just said, what is this now? When I was directing them, they were telling me, no, director, you're supposed to do this. And I said, okay, I'll come back to that. They were trying to tell me what to do. But thank God, 2 weeks down the road, I saw the comments on media and newspapers change. They said there's some improvement, the quality, the shots, and so on and so forth. To cut the long story short on that, coming back to what you're saying, when I was at Kabanana, I started, my first student is just directed Mr. Thompson's latest movie. I've forgotten, I think Makofi or something. And he became the director of Kabanana. This young man wanted to become a vet. He was staying at my elder sister's farm, going to church, staying at the farm manager. And
Yeah.
I told him that I want a community person. And he came. First, he refused, says, no, I want to become a vet. But when I convinced him, because he was doing nothing, I started training him film at my sister's place at the veranda. Then I took him to Mr. Thompson as a camera assistant. And when I left, he became a director. Why did I leave? I went to set up Velo Images production because I wanted to train people for free. Why was I thinking like that? I wanted us to start making quality productions. And then I realized that in Zambia, it was very difficult to raise money to make a film. I went and studied human rights and cinema in Italy, Inter-University Human Rights School. I studied human rights and cinema. Then I went to Colombia and studied human rights advocacy and cinema. Then I went to St. Xavier University and studied human rights, cinema, and leadership. I was adding all these to surround film. And that's why I'm coming to what you said, sir, when you talked about how do you see when some of the products are being done in the Zambian film industry. Because I realized that if you're going to tell stories, they have to have value. They have to change lives from my own thinking. And it's a very, very powerful tool. Because I remember when I worked on Isidingo and Generation, people were being beaten. Because people just watch the soap and they believe it's true. And that's why I said, if this tool can be so strong, I think to me, I would rather when I'm training people, human rights for change, film for change, film for advocacy, it has to bring change. Coming back to the film industry today, I've seen there's a lot of people that are making movies, and I thank God, most of my former students that I trained for free are doing a lot and are doing very, very well in the Zambian film industry. I'm a proud person that I may have contributed just one little percentage, but they are doing fine. And when I see them, I feel very humbled and I give God the glory. But people are in a hurry. I've always told people that when you make films, let it speak to somebody and let's also look at quality. I learned from film school, especially from Haile Garima, when he made his film Sankofa, he said, it took me 11 years. People sometimes they'll say, hey, you're taking so long, you're a filmmaker, they're in a hurry. But one experience that I've learned, I just told you that starting from the 6th up to last Saturday, my film Sui was being shown in the London Film Festival. That's a film that was released in 2009. I tried to convince these people, I've got other movies, I'm doing this smoke. They said, we just want that film. And when this film is done, it has also paid along the way. Sometimes people use it and then they pay you something. It's in the Library of Congress right now in Washington, D.C. So what I'm trying to say is, if people are making movies, but I challenge people that make movies that are going to change lives. And I've seen a few people using film as a tool also to change lives, but it's also what you take as a filmmaker. Because film is very powerful and it can destroy or build. So I would go for building, change lives, and I use it very much. And I've seen a few they're doing it. But what I'm still challenging people is, let's make products that are of good quality. I thank MultiChoice with most of it, what they're doing is drama series. But for the film industry, there are those passionate people that are trying. But we need to make movies in Zambia that will represent us and still bring the name to Zambia, bring Zambia, be ambassadors in the country. There are very, very few movies. Soaps, they're doing fine. Drama series, they're doing fine. That's an industry in the television, but let's look at the film industry. How can we bring glory to the Zambian industry, the Zambian audience, by making that one film that will change lives? Every day I listen, I watch, I go to festivals online, especially this year, to see, is there any Zambian film made by a Zambian and is telling the story, carrying the culture of Zambia. And that's what I just hope for and see many Zambians doing that.
Thank you so much for that. And if you notice, I have just allowed you to continue because it's so enriching listening to you and to see the amazing things and to just hear the amazing mind, the beautiful mind that you have. Um, Talking about glory, would you share with us? I know you have your movies have been in your film have been in Cannes Festival. You have won awards. Can you share with us some of the films you have made? It's an amazing thing to know that your film is in the Library of Congress. That tells what space you're occupying and the kind of quality work you are doing. You have told us quite a number of productions that you have been on and worked so well with. Tell us about the film, some of the films you've done, and some of the awards. If you don't mind telling us about some of those things, we'd like to hear from you.
I've done most of the films that I've done is co-production. Apart from my own, most of them is co-production because it's not easy to make, especially feature film. And I've told myself I'm not going to make feature films when I don't have the money. So
Yes.
I think it was the first Zambian film that was made somewhere. If you look at the budget, it came to about between 300 and 500 euro,
Yes.
500,000 euro. That time, you're talking about 2009. And
Yes.
I've done mostly documentaries and short films, which are being usually commissioned when people
Yes.
want to tell a story. I'll give an example. CDC, they want to talk about using
Women
smart
in leadership.
cards.
Okay.
Yes. Then I'll do those documentaries, women issues, international short films. Somebody comes and say, we want to talk about bringing Broken Hill man to Broken Hill Scout to Zambia, and that is somebody from Thailand. I do that for them, and they go and show in London and stuff. My own stuff mostly I've done like short films and documentaries, which I use in training, and then the current film that I'm working on is called Smoke, which I was supposed to do that in 2012. This filmmaker came from German, Thilo, and then he died from cancer in 2015. And the story that he did was very rich. He was talking about, young Zambians using sport as a tool to make change. And also talking about young people who live around Victoria Falls and they never go to Victoria Falls. So I was inspired with the story how this kid from Lusaka, from Livingston goes to Lusaka and using film and sport to change lives. And then that's the one I was making. It's now in post production. When he died, I thought, Tilo, how did he come to me? He was looking for a film director, and he was misled. He thought Victoria Falls was in South Africa. So when he wrote the script, he went to South Africa so that he can make the film. Then he discovered that actually Victoria Falls was between Zambia and Zimbabwe. So when he went back to Zambia, because my film Sui had been to Berlin Film Festival and it had been a guest in different places in different countries after it got some award. So he went to the embassy and asked for a director, and the Zambian embassy recommended him to come to me. And when he came with the script was more of South African, but based around Victoria Falls. So I was also asked to doctor the script and rewrite the script and doctor it and work with some German filmmaker. So when he died, I thought, because he was so passionate to make this film in Zambia, let me take it up. I talked to his wife and we agreed, and that's the film that we're working on, and other products. So those are some of the stuff that I've done. I've done a lot of documentaries that have been used because I'm also with the Film for Social Change, representing Zambia, which is from Witness and the Human Rights Watch in New York. So we're also trained by Human Rights Watch and Witness how to use film. So in Southern Africa, I'm the representative for using film for social change. So most of the films and documentaries that I make is for different issues, and we just donate, we give, but they work a lot in the communities and in the streets. Talking about awards, it's also the most difficult part to talk about.
Yes.
uh, First and foremost, before I won the first film award, I won awards from my scripts as a student, first from film school. My
Yes.
first documentary that I made as a film documentary won the most best documentary when it went into competition in Nigeria. Ghana, the Ghana Film School, and then the others. So I think the festival was in Nigeria, and it won just after I completed school. I did a documentary called making a difference in life. So that was my first product as a student, and I was graduating with the first award, and that's why I got all those job offers. And then I had the script that I was writing. It was called Kamkola. My grandmother told me the story, and my mother. And when I wrote that story, Kamkola means trapped. I wrote that story, and I went to Siteng. Siteng was the biggest film festival in Southern Africa, in Africa, that people from Europe, from everywhere used to come. I went to pitch at Sitengi, and I won the first as a concept, $10,000 for a script. I was just coming from school. That was, you're talking about 2003. I'm like,
Wonderful.
oh my goodness, I can win $10,000 to write a script. It was meant for me to write the next stage. So there were big filmmakers from all over Africa, and I got the best pitch. And then in 2004, I went back with this next stage, now the film. Again, I grabbed the first award, Best Feature Film. And I got filmmakers who came in from Germany, United States, and they wanted to make the film, and they wanted to support the film. I didn't make the film for one reason. Kamkola is a simple, interesting story about a young lady who escapes her father's wealthy house, disguising herself as a man, and finds herself in the village where she starts helping. But she's accused of impregnating the chief's separate wife, bringing homosexual acts in the village, and also she's also accused in trying to enter into the traditional setting to learn about women's issue. Now, when I did the film to me was, at the end of the film, the girl shows that because she was running away, she did a lot of good things in the village. But when the film reached at a point where the girl changes to show that I'm not a man, I'm a woman, I'm just running away from these issues. We're talking about women issues and being in leadership and so on and so forth. Some partners were not happy because I changed. They wanted her to stick to a man. I said, I don't promote homosexual, I don't promote lesbian thing. Yes. So that way I realized if I release this film, especially that some people from Germany really got upset and they pulled off. So I had to drop the film because I said, I don't want to be part of, the culture that I don't believe in, and my Christian background doesn't allow that. But that film won awards as a script, but I never made it. Then from there, I've won different awards as a filmmaker, as a human rights advocacy, and as a woman leader from Africa. Most of my awards, these awards I've gotten them mostly outside Zambia. There are a few, one or two from Zambian musicians, national media art that I've collected locally. But 3/4, if I go down the awards, I think there are more than 18 that I have received, not from Zambia, but from outside the country. And it's quite interesting. And, it's just humbling where you see that outside the country, the way people look at you is different from where in your own country, people look at you. And to me, it's very nice because it's nice that you're just simple the way you are. And, I've had experiences when I go outside the country, I said, no, please don't treat me like this. They want to treat me, give you a bodyguard and so on and so forth. No. I'm just a simple director. I just want to be like that. So I've got awards all over the world. Even the Africa Film Festival that was introduced, I think, in 2019, I got the pioneering African women film just 2019. I've also, because of the awards, I've also spoken in forums like World Youth Forum in Egypt. I've spoken, and if you talk about women deliver, talking about 8,000 plus women, and you go to speak to such an audience. So that's what I can talk about those awards. Canada, Calgary, all these have received some awards. On the film Sui, as human rights advocacy, as a women African leader, all those kind of stuff. Thank you.
It is really, really heartwarming, but it is sad because when you say what you have just said, particularly at the end of it, what I hear is that we haven't matured enough in that industry to appreciate our own people. We don't have an industry that is probably the funding and the financing and the maturity and the development of the industry to appreciate. In other countries, you're a huge celebrity. You are the Steven Spielberg and the the Oprah Winfrey's in those spaces, if you like. And here, we don't see you to value you. We should celebrate our own, not have foreigners celebrate ours. Because the extent, if I look at when I look at the trainings you've done, you've been to Colombia, you've been to Venice, you've been to Newtown Film, South Africa, you've been to Xavier University in Canada, you've been to all these places are places that people dream about, but you have studied there. In fact, let's divert a bit while we are here. I was going to talk about the maturity of our industry and why we don't make celebrities and value our celebrities. But let's talk, before we go there, let's talk about your education. How has education and exposure helped your filmmaking and directing? What value does that play in a woman's life?
It's a very, very important value. And I really want, I thank God because when I went to Newtown Film School, I didn't know anything. It was a 6 weeks workshop at Zamcom where I applied as an actress, and it was filmmaking. And I thank God for the late Godwin Maguru, because he was one of the lecturers who was teaching us. I was with the people like late Augustine Lungu, may so rest in peace, Anna Piri, Angel Piri. We were in the same class. Ben Banda, we were in the same class. I was the only one who knew nothing about film. But when we are picked, the five of us were picked to apply to Newtown Film School. I'm the only one who went. I didn't know what I was going for. And when I went to film school, it was the beginning of different exposure. Before I went to film school, because of my using theater through International Labour Organization, I went to Zimbabwe and studied theater art. It gave me some discipline. And then I also, through International Labour, I also did the women writers, different courses in Namibia and all those kind of stuff. They were giving me a bit of exposure. But when I went to Newtown Film School, the school I went to, one was in training us to make films from our roots as African filmmakers. Two, we had to meet people like guest speakers who were coming, people like Spike Lee. And they come and you're sitting and then you're a student. And because you're one of the top students, you are given a card to go to his premiere when he was premiering Son of Som. And then you're meeting with those people, all these Gaston Gabore, all these big filmmakers, Haile Garima. I started learning. And one good thing the film festival, the school used to do is take us to film festivals. And we'd go there as students. When there's Mnet Awards, the top students would be given tickets to go there and sit with those celebrities. So to me, it was part of training me to motivate me. That's why when I came back home, I started the film festival. It used to go International Film Festival of Zambia at Alliance Francaise, because I realized if Zambians cannot go to film festivals, they can come here, because I realized it was expensive. Even when I finished school, I had started saving. I would go with a train. From here, I would go with a bus up to Johannesburg. Johannesburg, I'll jump in a train and go and sleep on the train lodge for a film festival. Save money and go for a film festival. So that exposure, and even when I started going to school, the first school I went to was Inter-European University, where I learned human rights and cinema in Venice. You mentioned Venice, where I met my Angelina Jolie, and I was like, oh, okay, we are going through this red carpet together. I wish I can get a picture with these guys, but I have to be like them because they're treating me like them. But all those taught me that when a woman has got this, and number one, I think to me, number one in my life is God, is my CEO.
Yes.
Jesus is the director. The Holy Spirit is my supervisor.
Awesome.
So everything is based on God. The CEO is God, just the director. The Holy Spirit is my supervisor, number one. And then number two, when you have confidence, I'm a person with a disability. Everywhere I go, if they don't know me, the first thing, even here in Zambia, when you're directing a film, they will tell you, we don't want to talk to you, we want to talk to your boss. And then you call your production manager, you just humble yourself. You get all these, when I just came back, you're treated like you can't do it. But when you have God within you, you just smile. And to me, the other training ground to look at this, to have the strength and to be confident is also, first, my experience was as a girl with a disability. My stepmother trained me to look at life that way. It took me, when I came out of the house, it took me more than 10 years to change, to be strong. And I would cry inside, but writing and poetry helped me out. That was my number one. As a girl with a disability, who's lived with a stepmother, I'm not speaking this in negatively, but for sure she was really mistreating me. Because I remember I used to go to school, walk, my uniform is torn. If my mother hasn't sent me a uniform, I'd go with a shoe with half high heels. If mother hasn't bought me something, she would tell me, don't eat in the house. I'm not speaking this to criticize her, but I'm just giving, a way that God used her. And that's what I love to make me who I am today. Disability, challenges of living with a stepmother. And one thing that I haven't talked a lot about, I can say it, I've talked in different forums. At the age, I was very young. I was sexually abused. I didn't even know that I'd lost my virginity. And
Wow.
I was being eaten. I only came to know when I went to Kasama Girls and I'm reading a book, Speak Out. And I'm saying, this is what happened. And this is somebody who was a family friend to my cousin's friend used to come. And I couldn't tell anyone because of the culture. So for more than 20 years, I was being eaten, but I used poetry, music, drama to back myself. The first time I spoke about my issue, I remember it was Auntie Gladys Mutukwa when there was a workshop on sexual child abuse at Intercontinental, 1995. It happened in 1980. Just think about how I'd lived that life. But because God, I think having God as my CEO, just as my director, and the Holy Spirit my supervisor, somehow they helped me out, because I would have committed suicide. I would have done something that was eating me. The day I spoke out at Intercontinental, I cried. And Gladys told me that, be careful, because if you don't heal, you can kill that person, and years have passed, and you can even end up rotting in prison for murder. So all those are challenges that taught me and helped me to be who I am today. And I thank God for all those kind of stuff. So exposure, when I went out, listened to other stories, shared my stories, I started getting the strength, and exposure helped me out and learned how to deal with issues, and also appreciating where I'm coming from. I would have left the country a long time ago, because I was offered jobs in Sweden, but I said, I just want to be a part of that one young Zambian, especially a girl that has got nothing, and put something for that girl to look back and say, I am somebody, and I'm going back home.
Thank you so much. It is such a courageous rendition right now. You have been able to, with courage, even expose and talk about your vulnerability. But you used it as a stepping stone. You have not used this as a crutch, but you have used this as a stepping stone. And thank God for who you are, and thank God for believing in Zambia to be a light for the next woman. Tell me, Ma, even as we begin to close this, because 1 hour goes so fast, how do we build the film industry and get more women in leadership? Your brand of leadership, Warren Bennis wrote an article called The Crucible of Leadership, and you have gone through the crucible of leadership. How do we pass this to other young women? How do we create space for more female directors? How do we build a film industry in Zambia? We see what the Nigerians have done. We see what the Ghanaians are doing. We see what the Senegalese are doing. The South Africans, our neighbors, are doing quite a lot. What do we do? What do we need to do to bring more women into that space, more female directors? And how do we build our film industry? What would you say to that?
The first thing that I can say, the most critical part for me is oneness. Appreciate one another. Support one another. In this industry, you cannot work alone. Whatever you have, you complement each other. If we start thinking of complementing each other and supporting each other, then we're going to build the industry. But if we start thinking like, I'm Musola, I'm me, and I just look at myself, I think the industry, we have failed in Zambia. I'm sorry to say this, it's developed, but we have failed to grow the industry because we are not united, whether we like it or not. There are times that I would cry. Personally, I would cry when I see the talent, I see what is there. The women, young women, there's great talent. When it comes to actors, Most of the actors I've used in my movies, they are first-time actors, and they're brilliant, and they have won awards. Even the film that I've done, the young boy that is there who's acting as the lead character, it's his first time I've never acted, but when you watch, you see this kid acting, you just say, wow, there's potential, there's talent, but I don't know, we just don't know how to work together, support each other. If we can find that platform where we unite as filmmakers, I know there's National Media Art, there's a Actors Guild or Filmmakers Guild. There's all these platforms. If we come together and speak one language, this industry would be amazing. But the thing is, we have failed to speak one language. We are always pulling each other. And if, as an industry, we're pulling each other, how much more can we have women directors? Women's, careers like director, careers like women producers, women sound, women camera person that are award winners. I would like to see a Zambian woman sound person standing doing a very big movie. The Pioneers in Skate, the film that we want to bring to Zambia and discuss it, it's in the United States, but they're talking about the same issues that women are finding very difficult. It's very difficult for a woman to be a director. I've had my experiences in Zambia where people would disqualify me to be a director, to direct their movie until after they have seen it. But now, if we are talking about California, this film, if people want to watch it, I can give them a link. At the moment, it's free because it's Women Month. Pioneers in Skate, the experiences women directors are experiencing in the States, how much more in Zambia, in Africa, where we have this culture where a woman is, some culture does not allow a woman to do certain things. But women have got the potential. And I would like just to encourage us to come together, work together, and promote each other, and work as partners, both male and female. Support each other. Most of the people that I work with in the film industry I've worked with mostly are more men than women, but I've supported more young women than young men. I've supported young men, yes, but I've supported more young women because I see it's very, very difficult for young women or young girls to get into this industry, especially when you're talking about careers, not makeup, not wardrobe, but these like director, camera, sound, those are the things. So to me, and then above all, let God lead. To me, in everything I do, God is the CEO, Jesus is the director, the Holy Spirit is my supervisor. That's what I believe in.
Thank you so much, ma'am. What I've just heard is also in film and in the industry there are stereotypes and there's still discrimination. There are still places where we still feel this is where women should be in makeup and things like that, but not in the major roles. And you have stood up and you are fighting and empowering for more women to come into those spaces. We do applaud you for your work. We do commend you for your standing up for the woman in the industry. As we close today, with the 3 minutes, 2 minutes we have left, I'd like to ask you, if one woman wants to make headway in the film industry, what would you say what's her roadmap? What are the 5, 6, 7 steps, 3 steps, 2 steps she should pursue, she should do to get her to becoming that filmmaker, film director, and award-winning Zambian woman in film?
Number one, put God first. You cannot do anything without God. That's number one. Number two, use your challenge, your obstacle as a motivation to forging ahead. Because the moment you start thinking like that, then you're motivated, then you feel, I have to do it. Don't let any obstacle bring you backwards. In this industry, there are so many obstacles. When I was at film school, I was being told that sometimes men directors would disappear, go and shed tears. And I've done it as a female director, where there's so much heat. I leave the stage, at the set, I go, I cry, I come, and I'm smiling, and we move on. Never, ever give up. My number one experience is when I was shooting the film Sui. If I had given up, I reached a point where I wanted to give up. But I remembered the words, never, ever give up. And my own belief, my number one, go is let your obstacle become your motivation. And then I also, from my personal experience, when God is about to do a good thing, the devil brings all the confusion. It's a dark corner you can't cross. And I said, God is about to do a good thing. I didn't know Sue was going to be an award winning. And I almost gave up. And then I remembered, I said, no, the devil is not happy when you're supposed to do something. Do it and move forward. And I stood and I do whatever I wanted to do. So my challenge is never ever give up. And don't allow anyone to tell you can't do it. We all have specific blessed talents or strength that God has given us. I may be weak in my walking, but God has given me that strength. And there's always an alternative. If I can't walk like any other person, there's an alternative that I can find. God who is going to help me out. So I would challenge any young woman, any person who wants to do what they want to do, especially in the movie industry. Use your obstacle as a motivation. Let God be your number one guide. And don't listen to those negative voices. They come, eh? This one tells you this one tells you this. Smile, be happy, and forgive. Never ever carry something to your heart. What I've done in my life when I'm being hurt, how do I try to forgive? I try to make conversation, to follow up with those people and talk to them so that then I'm healed and it goes out. So forgiveness will make you succeed. Love everyone, no matter who, especially those that persecute you. Those that tell you can't do it. Me, they were my best friends. Those will be the medicines. But if you just let other people, other voices, you won't make it. So I'm just encouraging people to take God number one. Take your obstacles, your challenges as your motivation. Have a heart of forgiving, loving those that tell you can't do it. I've had many people that have told me I can't do it. And I'll just smile and say, thank you, Lord. He's going to see me through. I would cry secretly. I say, what do they think? But then I smile. I say, thank you, Jesus. I know when you talk to God, he gives you a peace and you move on. Don't have enemies. And get mentors also, people to inspire you. I've got a number of people that have inspired me, starting from my grandmother, my mother, and others. Let them inspire you, especially people who cannot do it. To me, those that fight very hard, they can't do it and they do it, have been my inspiration.
It has been such a joy speaking with you. Time flies so fast, and we do apologize for the shortage of time. In fact, right now, I think we're just reading your preface and not even getting into chapter one of what we should be talking about. But we thank you for your time. We've been talking to Musola Cathrine Kaseketi. We have been talking to a champion, Zambian champion in the film industry. You have been Zambia's first director in film. You are Zambia's first director in film. You are Zambia's first award-winning director, and you have represented Zambia in so many forums. You have won over 18 awards in film and in the industry. You have paved the way for women to see what they can do. Most importantly, you have never seen yourself as a woman with disability, but you have turned your disability to become your springboard for achievement. We do celebrate you today as a nation. We do honor you today. You have spoken so loudly that it is time for us to invest in our film industry, and we should encourage younger women to get into that space. There are not enough women in the key roles you have said to us. And we totally appreciate that you have been a champion and you have been a warrior speaking to us. You just have been on CSW for the last 6 days, you told us. CSW is the biggest conference for women all over the world. It is only next to the General Assembly of the UN, and Zambia has been fully represented in the last weeks. So we honor you today, and we thank you, Musola, for being with us today on Scars to Stars. You truly are a star that has come out of many, many scars. And thank you for persisting. We thank your God and Jesus and the Holy Spirit for having worked on you and giving you the courage and the power to forgive. We won't have you if you didn't go through those things. So thank you so much. As we leave you, we say continue flying the flag for Zambia and have a wonderful evening. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much for the opportunity. I'm very, very humbled, sir. Very, very humbled. Thank you.
We are so honored to have you. Well, the rest of us, Zambia, we have been watching Musola Cathrine Kaseketi. She is the foremost Zambian woman in film. She has represented us at every platform in the industry. She has mixed with the high, she has mixed with the greats, and she has remained humble. What a compliment, what a recognition, what an epitome of who we are as Zambians. Even though she's been exposed, yet our culture and her culture speaks so much of the ambassador you are to us as Zambians. So we thank you all for watching today on social media. On Facebook is our first live stream, and Cathrine again is a first. So thank you so much. We will look towards tomorrow. Please stay with us. CBC will bring you another woman from Lead Africa Women's Institute. We're going to bring you another woman telling us how she has gone beyond disabilities and she has shone in all the great things God has ordained for her. Cathrine, we say good night. Zambia, we say good night. It's one Zambia, it's one nation, and Cathrine is flying the flag. God bless you, man. Good night, everybody.